In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut and sew this simple transparent corset. This corset pattern is from KIHM Styling on Instagram. And if you're still having issues on how to draft a corset pattern, join us on our 5 days corset class where we'll be teaching you how to draft different corset pattern, how to draft a basic corset, a Victorian corset, an underbust corset, a dartless corset, an overbust corset, and also how to take proper measurement for your corset. So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurement for this pattern, which is my shoulder to bust line, my shoulder to under bust line, my shoulder to waist line, and for the blouse length, I'm using 5 inches after my waistline. After marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 divided by 2, I have 7, and I'll come down by 1 inch from that point. Go ahead to place and connect my shoulder slope. Next, I'm going to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. What I have is 7 inches. I made a mark there and I drew out a straight line. I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 and I'll place my ruler and connect. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at the chest line, then fold my tape into 2 at the remaining part of my shoulder. After this, I went ahead to connect at the armhole area. Now, the next step I'm going to take is to insert my body measurement. Because I'm cutting this corset in form of a dartless corset, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add ½ inch to my pattern. At the underbust, I'll mark my underbust circumference divided by 4 and I'll add ½ inch. Now, my waist circumference is 28 and I want to snatch my waist. I'm taking out 2 inches from my waistline. My waist is 28 minus 2. What I have is 26. 26 divided by 4 will give me 6.5, which I marked and I added ½ inch to it. The ½ inch is for the joining allowance. Here, I'm going to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and I'll add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. The next step is to connect from the upper part of this pattern to the underbust, to the waist and down to the hip point or blouse length of this pattern. So from here, I'll come up by 2 inches and I'm going to go ahead to draw out the hemline area of this corset pattern. So you can go ahead to use your ruler or your free hand, anyone that works better for you. Now, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this part before going ahead to draw out the cup area of this pattern. At the chest line, I'll come in by ½ inch and I'm going to connect. Now, I'm going to get my cup. While choosing a cup, there are factors to consider. Now, if you want to have a push-up effect on your cup, you're going to use a cup that is actually smaller than your bust. Let's say your bust is 34, you will use bust cup 32. Now, if you want it to be like your normal cup, just the moderate covering effect, you're going to use 34, which is your actual cup, which is mine. Now, if you want your cup to cover your bust area very well and your bust to sit properly inside, go ahead to use a cup that is at least 2 inches bigger than your bust, which is cup 36. Now, you're going to sew a dart on the cup. You're going to be sewing a 2 inches dart. That is, the length of the dart is 2 inches and you're going to pinch about ½ inch, which you're going to stitch it up with. Now, you're going to go over to the machine and you're going to run a stitch on it. Now, you're going to bring your cup and you're going to be placing it on this pattern. So now you're going to go ahead to place your cup and tilt it. So any way you place your cup, that is the shape of the cup area you're going to have. Now I'll place my cup this way and tilt it up a bit. So after this, I'll go ahead and I'll be drawing out the shape. So if you want your cup to face up this way, you're going to leave it this way. But for me, I'll tilt it to the side a bit and I'll go ahead to draw out the shape I have at that point. Now, after I'm done drawing this, I'm going to be connecting it to the other end of my pattern this way. Now go ahead to blend, just like I said, blend it to your chest line. So you can go ahead to just draw what you have here, which is optional because you still be cutting it, unless you're going to make use of a yoke for this pattern. So if you're making use of a yoke for the pattern, you're going to use this to cut it out, and then the upper part will be serving as the yoke for this pattern. Now I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this part of my cup. Now if you're working for a pattern that has a yoke, you just mark out your basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches and you're going to connect. So here's the yoke for this pattern. Now you can just decide to give your corset pattern a little style line, just like we have seen on the thumbnail. So this is what your pattern will be looking like. Now I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comment at the comment section. So if you're still having issues on how to draft a corset pattern, you can also go ahead to join us on our corset class. So this is the back. Now we are going to go ahead to cut out the back. To make this easy, we are just going to use the pattern we have for this front and we are going to trace it out. So I'll go ahead and take note of the chest line area of my pattern and I'll place my ruler. Now we are tracing out, and when tracing out, at the lower part of this pattern, that is at the lower part, we are going to take it straight. We are not going to follow this curve because this is going to the back of the dress and this is actually an inbuilt corset. So you don't want it to go so low at the back because it might be difficult for the person wearing it to zip up the dress. So what I'm going to do is just to go ahead to take that line straight. And I'm going to go ahead to draw out the chest line area of the pattern. So after I'm done outlining this is what I have, and I'm also going to go ahead to blend out this very well and place my ruler, draw this out. So now the next step you also want to take is to go ahead to draw out the lacing area. So this totally depends on what you want to use for the back. If you want it to cover, you're also going to do that. So I'm using about 2 inches, which I marked all the way down. Now I'll mark or create a little circle to indicate a lacing, and I'll come down by 1/2 inch and I'll go ahead to connect it to the chest line. So after this, I'll just go ahead to cut out my pattern. So if you have any question regarding this particular pattern drafting, please go ahead to leave your question at the comment section, and to also join our corset drafting class, you can go ahead to send us a message on our WhatsApp number. Thanks.